Now, for most of you, the bow season is already begun or just around the corner. There's a lot of states open October 1st, and there's some big hunting states that do so, like Michigan. And so a lot of numbers are going on October 1st, middle of September for Wisconsin, Minnesota. So a lot of places are near and dear to my heart are that mid-September and later. But even then, we're just a very close time before that actually begins. I'll be hunting down in Kentucky in the first portion of October, and I can't wait to do so. But boy, everything is just coming in right now, and I've been worried so much about stands, mock scrapes, cameras, water hole locations, blinds, switchgrass, food plots, fertilization, plot start, plot boost. There's so many different steps. And this year I'm looking at right around 18 acres in 2 states just the food plots, let alone about 12, 14 acres of switchgrass between the 2 states. So there's a lot going on, a lot to manage, mowing, different things. And so when it comes down to this time though, we need to start focusing on that bow hunting prep. And a lot of that involves these last minute tweaks to stands and bows and broadheads and shooting. So I want to go over those, whether you're a new or beginner bow hunter or you're advanced, you've been around for a long time. And I have fond memories when I think about some of this stuff. I can remember turning those screws and tightening everything up back when I was 16 and going hunting for the first time, 15, right around there, tweaking the broadheads, think we had to line up the vanes and everything, and just, you know, really getting into it to the point where I couldn't sleep the night before because we're going down on opening day and we have all these things coming together. I remember staying up late and putting felt on the inside of bows to quiet everything down so my arrow's not hitting anything. There's a lot of things you can do at the last minute that don't take a lot of time, but they sure are important. And number one right here for bow hunting final prep is those set screws, making sure you don't have any vibrations on your bow. And a lot of times you can just take your string, pull it about a 1/4 inch and let go, like a banjo string or something, and you can hear that vibration in your bow if you have a set screw loose or something's going on that should be corrected. And again, I'm not telling you to draw your bow into this, I'm telling you to pull it back a 1/4 inch and just see if you can hear that vibration. Making sure all your screws are tight but not over tightened. You want to make sure they're just set the way they should be. Back in the day in the 80s, it didn't take much to over torque something and strip something out. We didn't have the really high quality machine gear that we do right now. And so a lot of that stuff, we were using flippers and burger buttons. That's going back a long ways. The burger button was a button that came out of your rest and your burger hole right there, and it would come out and it had a little pad on it, and that's what the arrow would slide against. You had to overcorrect your arrows because we didn't have the shoot through design and risers like we do right now. So going back a long ways. Certainly that you can add in there is adding felt at the bottom of your sight. When you're in your bow and that arrow goes up and hits that sight, it doesn't take much to spook a deer 100, 150 yards away with an errant metallic ting. You can really reduce that just with some felt with adhesive on one side. I had a lot of fun cutting out those areas and putting on, and then a lot of the shoot through drop away rests nowadays completely protect the arrow and keep it from moving around, hitting your riser, your sight, your stabilizer, but all those things need to be protected and padding put on. Think about if that arrow's there and you accidentally turn your bow a little bit, you put it on your lap and it falls off, is it going to make that tinging noise? Because it doesn't take much to spook a deer quite a ways away. So that's number one right there. Tree stand prep, this is a big one. There's a lot of things you should do. Make sure that you have a lifeline in every tree. There's no excuse not to. They cost less than your stand, far less. They last for many, many years. And it's something that your loved ones will thank you for using it. It's something that so many people fall out of their stands every single year. And this is something that keeps you safe from the moment that you step foot off the ground. There's no excuse not to use one. I go to a lot of client properties. They're spending a lot of money to have me come and look at their land, design their land. Dylan does too. And we look at stand locations and they're not using lifelines. I plead with them to do that. And obviously at that point, it's not a matter of money. It's just, to me, back in the day, it was a matter of just getting used to using them. And once I've used them, I can't go back. And I urge you, for your loved ones or yourself, to make sure you have a lifeline. Lanes. You know, a lot of times, all our shooting lanes should be done by this point or really close. I'm talking about when you're in the tree, taking up a pole saw and just make sure that some of those branches you nipped off 2 years ago, a year ago, haven't grown back into your shooting windows. So a lot of those can be done just with a pole saw. You're bringing it up on your bow rope, and you just pull that saw up and then you're clipping those within distance of that stand where you can extend that saw to and cut. Just making sure that you have those holes still open. And that does bring it up to where you have to have that bow rope. The worst thing you can do, Dylan brought this up today, is you get to a stand location and there's no bow rope. And I've done that in the past where I put my arm through the bow, put the cam above my shoulder, and I've climbed up, tinging, hitting tree steps or the ladder all the way up. It's not a safe way to climb, and it's not a quiet way to climb. Just making sure you have a bow rope at every stand location is a very easy way to make sure that you're all set and ready to hunt this fall. Bow holder, hangers for gear if you want to bring stuff. I don't bring backpacks into the woods or anything, but if you do, having a hanger on the back side where you can have that pack hidden and out of view so it doesn't look like another person sitting in the tree is very advantageous. But then also having a bow holder. You know, I grew up and I still do. I'll put the bottom cam of my bow on the platform. I'll lean it back into me. But boy, it's sure nice when I can have a bow holder and just hang that bow right in front of my face. So every one of my stand locations has a bow holder, whether it's a branch or an actual commercial made bow holder, and that can really help you out. And then of course those hangers. I even to the point where I'm going to new stand locations, I bring those with me those first times out because I just want to make sure. I use my hand warmer tube. I use batteries for a camera in there, extra SD cards, my phone's in there, and a lot of times I'll put a bow hanger in there too, another hanger, and I can bring those out with me very easily and quietly. So last but not least, when it comes to your stand and your tree stand prep time, is to really make sure you leave the seat up. And the reason for that is you don't want that seat down and collecting a bunch of garbage on it, rotting the seat because moisture sits on it, doesn't have anywhere to go, it's trapped. So make sure you put that seat up. And make sure you have those plugs in the end of your seat, because a lot of times if you have a metal piece that's a U, if you have webbing in between, water can get in there, and if it's not designed properly, then water can sit in the bottom of that channel steel, and it freezes during the fall and expands it. It can actually crack and weaken that steel in your stand. So make sure you have those caps on the ends if you have that type of style, but leave the seat up so you're not collecting a bunch of garbage and rotting out that seat. Number 3, when it comes to shooting, make sure you're practicing. If you haven't done so already, make sure you go out in your practice range or your local archery range and do this, but practice sitting down and shooting. And people think that's difficult, but think about it. Your back's against the tree or seat. You have each foot on the ground or platform, and it's a very stable position because you have 3 points of contact. If you're standing a lot, you're moving back and forth. You can watch me when I'm talking, I'm moving. And that's the same thing when you're in a stand. It's more easy for you to move your whole body. You're a standing figure. Always safer to sit when you shoot back against a tree, and it's a lot more stable than you might think. Also pulling straight back. No sky draws because you have too much poundage. Make sure that you could imagine pulling your bow back when it's December 2nd. It's a high of 15 degrees. You've sat in the stand for 3 hours. You're a little chilled. Big buck comes by. Can you pull straight back at him without spooking them and without moving too much to spook them? And if you can't do so, then drop your poundage. Not a bad thing to do so. You don't even have to admit it to anybody. Just drop your poundage. Don't be too proud that you think you have to shoot a magical number of 70 pounds or 75 pounds. I've shot 62 pounds for many years now because that's comfortable, and today's bows are equal to 75 or 80 pounds back in the day. So very advantageous to learn how to pull straight back, and then also stretch your limits. This is a great time. You should be doing pretty well out in the practice range. So this is a great time to actually stretch your limits and double the distance you would shoot, at least add another 10, 20 yards. And when you keep shooting that consistently and go back to your intended hunting range, you're gonna find that you're a lot better shooter and a lot more confident. Number 3, make sure you shoot your broadheads. And I shoot the Muzzy Trocar HBs, and they fly just like my field points. And even if they don't, they're only a couple inches off, but it's so important to shoot them even for confidence. So what I do routinely is I'm shooting into one of my morel. It's a dice target. I forget what the high roller target they call it. And it's something I can shoot field points or my broadheads into. So I have a field point target and a broadhead target. And what I'll do is if I'm shooting 6 or 7 arrows for practice, that first one is always that practice broadhead. I'll shoot that one first. I want my muscles to be that first shot, just like it'd be in a tree. So I'm shooting that arrow first with the broadhead, and then I'm following up with my field points, 5 or 6. But I'm shooting that consistently. Now, if you have a big, large fixed blade broadhead, you're going to find that you need big vanes to steer that properly. But even so, you're still going to have to shoot that and sight that in. That's going to be the worst case scenario, where that broadhead might not hit in the same spot your field points do. Those small little heads, even if you're shooting a small one, a Shuttle T, a TrueFire T1, a Montech G5, Slick Trick, whatever it might be, those little heads, you still have to shoot those in. They might be 4 inches off at 30 yards. They'll be consistent, I find, but at the same time, you still have to shoot them. And even if you're going with a full expandable, like a Rage or a Rocket Head, I shot Rocket Heads for 15 years. They were very consistent, but I still shot them. I still wanted to see where they were placing. So there's no excuse not to shoot your broadheads. Make sure where they're hitting, tune appropriately, and just because you're shooting an expandable doesn't mean it's going to hit like a field point. Don't take that for granted. Also, just because you're shooting a small broadhead doesn't mean it's going to hit exactly where your field point. And certainly if you're using those big broadheads, even if you have big helical vanes, which we used to use, I used Satellite Titans back in the early 90s. They were 150 grains, they were big broadheads, and I used 5-inch, pretty good helical vanes on a 23-17 arrow to steer those. They did fly with like a field point then, but I was using a 600 grain setup with a giant broadhead with giant vanes to do so at 70-some pounds. So always shoot your broadheads. Number 4, cleaning your clothes, your boots, your packs. I clean my clothes and wash my clothes and make sure they're outside. I don't take my boots inside. I don't put gas at the gas station in my tank with my hunting boots on. But I'm doing so because I don't want to leave a scent trail in the woods, knowing that I've taken care of my scent control and the bulk of my scent control simply by making sure my stands were located appropriately. That's the number one form of scent control. If a big buck or a doe is downwind of you, an old doe, they're going to scent you. They're going to pick you out. They're going to know that you're there. Instead, take that out of the equation by appropriately placing your stand, never taking it for granted that you can just go into a stand with your wind blowing the wrong way and everything's going to be okay. Always hunt the wind, but then wash your clothes so you're not leaving a giant scent trail every time you walk in and out of your stand. That's what destroys properties. That's what destroys your favorite spot on public land, because you're leaving all these scent trails all over the place. Instead, have clean clothes, clean boots, and minimize the scent trail, scent signature that you're leaving in the woods. And finally, hunting mode. What is hunting mode? Hunting mode is that mode we get into after we sit in the woods 6 or 7 times. That first time we sit, there's a squirrel over there. You jerk your head around like someone's saying boo from 100 yards away, and you just gotta look over there. You're not in hunting mode yet. Start to calm yourself down right now before the season begins. That could probably be one of your number one bow hunting preps, is just making sure that you're in tune with the woods, you're slowing your pace down, you're reducing your stress levels, and you're consciously making an effort. When you hear that squirrel, you're looking with your eyes first, then your head. You're moving very slowly. If you have to even move your head at all, you're hunting with your eyes, and especially you're hunting with your ears. That's the best form of hunting mode, is just simply hunting with your ears. In order to do that, you can't be moving around that much. You can't be playing around. You have to actually sit still, close your eyes, even listen. Some of the best hunts that I've been on have simply been that I felt like I was really in tune with what was going on around me, not because I was looking all over the place and making a lot of movement, simply because I closed my eyes, relax, and I listen. I listen to the way the birds are talking around, the way the squirrels are moving, the way the squirrels are chattering, and you can tell when a deer is coming from that direction just by listening to animals, let alone just one little stick crack in the distance. Hunt with your ears, get into your hunting mode, make sure you practice these bow hunting final preps. In some cases, you'll be a safer hunter. In a lot of cases, you'll be a better shooter. You're not going to spook as many deer. And finally, getting that hunting mode, because this is the time of year we all love and enjoy. And frankly, I love getting into the stand because that's when the stress level goes down. I think about hunting, I think about nature and what's around me, and I truly love this time of year, and I hope you do too. Make sure you're getting into that hunting mode, along with all these other things you can do for your bow hunting final prep this season, and you'll have a better hunt, not only in the early season, but this will carry through for the rest of the bow season, every week, all season long. Well, I'm real excited, folks. I appreciate you watching this video, but My next web class, how to plant food plots, how to design your food plot program, is out. And it really goes through a step-by-step process for not only how to plant your food plots, but why you should plant them, where you should plant them, what you should plant, how you should create them. There's a lot of different modules. Ends up about 30 videos all together. I urge you to check that out. We're out here completing our food plot work today, and we do that in a pretty strict pattern so we can find success this fall. Food plots shouldn't be a guessing game. Take the guesswork out of food plots and food plots planting, and check out the web classes. I have my how to design your whitetail property, the food plots for the next web class in the series, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you check it out, and let me know what you think if you end up purchasing that, and I think you'd be well pleased that you did.